Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. You know, the first nearly 2 seasons of this show, we didn't even do an episode on James Lankford. And there's a very good reason why. Because there just wasn't anything out there on the guy. He always was content to work the shadows and didn't take the podium a whole lot. You just never saw a whole lot of him. But something changed, and that's what we're going to talk about this week. Yeah, something changed. And it was January 6th. I don't know if you remember, but during the insurrection that happened at the Capitol, James Lankford was giving a speech at the time. And when they decided that they needed to shut the chamber down, he was the one speaking when they told him to stop and removed everybody. And then something else happened, you see, because the thing was, James was in the middle of this. James was very willing to jettison the republic for autocracy and authoritarian rule because his buddies, his friends, told him to do so. So what James did was he was more than willing to do it, using the procedures in Congress to extra constitutionally and possibly illegally send votes back to states to have them redecide their vote and then send them back. See, and that's all part of our republic, you see, because electors are representatives in a representative form of government, a republic, that go to Washington, D.C. to vote for the people of their state for president. And that's what they did. They followed the Constitution. They followed the law. Even some of these states had their own audits done and decided that there was no fraud. Not even, in some cases if there was, it wasn't enough to change the vote totals. So Joe Biden won. And that's what they said. All the state officials, even Republicans, concluded, yeah, Joe Biden won. Well, James Lankford wasn't about to accept that. And who knows? Maybe he was, but he was cowed into committing treason by trying to jettison the republic and send those votes back in a ultra-constitutional way. Even Inhofe said so. He thought that it was unconstitutional to do this and that it was not of law to do so. And he wasn't even for it. So when you look at Inhofe's record, yeah, he never voted against it. He never spoke out against it. He thought that, Joe Biden won. He won. He saw the deal, saw the numbers and everything else, and just couldn't support the big lie that there was so much rampant fraud that Joe Biden won. 40,000 ballots in Arizona from China? Come on, really? Didn't happen. Didn't happen. But here you are with James Lankford doing this. And then, of course, the insurrection happened. So what happened? Well, James came out again and decided, I'm going to let these votes go through. I'm not going to contest them because now, if I'm for him and I stand up for him after this violence happened, it makes it look like the violence was the reason why we didn't hold the vote for Joe Biden to be president. It makes it look that way, and he didn't want to be tied in with that. Now, probably rightfully so. He didn't want to. Several people, still today, even Republicans, don't want to be tied with that. They even deny it was Trump supporters that stormed the Capitol. Now, there's a bunch of leftists. Of course, why would leftists want to storm the Capitol to stop a vote on President Joe Biden that they all voted for? Because they don't. It's baloney. It's cowardly behavior is what it is. It's trying to reach for anything you can so that you don't have to take responsibility for what happened. And that's exactly what this is all about. So now we got James Lankford, the traitor to the republic that he is. And you know the guy is definitely an authoritarian. He loves authoritarian. He loves autocracy. It's what he wants. He doesn't love the democracy. He doesn't. I mean, Republicans don't. We've talked about that all season so far, about how Republicans hate democracy. Well, this goes beyond that to hating the republic too. Because see, this is how James feels about it. He feels that only godly men should serve. He absolutely believes this. Hey, you know, like Mo Brooks said on January 6th, he said, it is the destiny of conservatives to rule the state of America. It is. The United States of America is the destiny of conservatives to control it. That's exactly what he said. And that's exactly how Lankford thinks. And you can see it in his post. You can see it in his emails he puts out, which I want to get to right now. Because see, after January 6th, what happened was that kind of scared Lankford a bit, I think. And he had to rush and put out an email on the 7th. The thing about this email was he probably should have waited. Like they tell you, I mean, you know, before you hit send, why don't you wait? Because it was very, I would say, damning. It really highlighted his treason. It really did. Exactly what he wanted to do. It was a confessional. I saw it as a confession letter. Oh my God, this guy just confessed. Because he states in it, hey, I have friends. And let's think about these friends. These aren't, even today, 6 months later, these are still current friends. He didn't like get rid of them because of this. He didn't say, oh, these are just acquaintances or anything else. No, these are still friends of his. They're influencers, and they're probably campaign donators. They probably are. They probably give him campaign donations. I'm almost positive they do. So that's what you got here. James Lankford beholden to a bunch of people that cowed him down because he's kind of a coward. And they manipulated him to try to jettison the Constitution and the rule of law so they could keep Trump as president in a fit of autocracy. And that's exactly what James tried to do. He definitely tried to do it. He definitely tried to do that. He just didn't want to do it in a violent way. He was going to use procedure in Congress to do so. Well, you know, those Trump supporters really threw a monkey in that wrench when they invaded the Capitol, because James was so sure that he could talk Congress into sending these votes back so they could do a pressure campaign on them to make sure, are you sure that's what you counted? Now, are you sure that's right? Are you sure this guy ought to be an elector? And that's exactly what they wanted to do. So they could send those votes back. And then, hey, what do you know? Trump wins. And that's exactly what they tried to do. He even explains it right in his email, that his friends wanted him to forget the rule of law and the Constitution and just find a way to keep Trump. That's exactly what James did. So you have this confession that he gave on the 7th, which really kind of blew everybody's mind. So ever since then, 2-3 times a week, we see James somewhere on TV, somewhere on a podium, giving some kind of Java with James video on his Facebook link. He's out there, and he's talking. And because he lost a lot of credibility. That's what happened. He lost a lot of credibility with this, on both sides of the aisle. See, because one, he tried to jettison the Republic for autocracy in a fit of treason on the one side, and on the other, they didn't feel he was authoritarian enough. No, man, he didn't go far enough. Why did you stop when the violence happened? You had it. Should have not certified those and send them back. So to those guys, he wasn't authoritarian enough. And so that's what we have with James Lankford, kind of in a rock and a hard place. It's why he got a challenger that's so far off the charts, right-wing crazy land, that, wow, that guy probably won't win because he's so far crazy. So far crazy. But that's just what we have with James Lankford, you see, because when James Lankford says things like, only godly men should serve, we exactly know what he thinks about our republic and our democracy. Basically, he loves it as long as it works for him. But as soon as it doesn't work for conservatives and Republicans, well, it's got to go. It's quite all right to go full autocracy, full authoritarian, jettison that Constitution, because you see, we've got to have godly men serve. Because it is the destiny of conservative Christians to control the destiny of the United States of America. That's exactly what he thinks. And that's exactly why we have what he's doing now. Because he's trying to get away from that, but he just can't seem to get away from it because, see, he's being pulled. See, he's got two sides here. He's got one side that's calling him a traitor, so he's trying to find his credibility that he's not, and then the other side telling him he's a traitor because he didn't go full authoritarian. So now he's coming out trying to be partisan as he can, which is what he does. I mean, look, he hasn't picked for a Biden pick yet, and as a matter of fact, he finds any reason he can not to vote for one. Hey, I'm gonna put a hold on this candidate. I'm not gonna vote for this candidate because of this. Hey, you know, Biden wants to put in an abortion rule, so I'm not gonna vote for this person. I mean, I don't know this person, and he probably is qualified, but you know, my politics are just gonna get in the way. Because that's the way James is. And I think it's funny because he always puts out stuff that they're just being political, talking about Democrats and liberals. They're just being political. They're trying to play politics. When that's exactly what James does all the time. It's exactly what he does by holding up Biden's picks when he says, well, you know, I'm against abortion and I just can't vote for this person because his politics get in the way. That's exactly what it is. James is the king of cowards, because one, he loves to dish it. Oh, he loves to dish it. But he's just way too cowardly to be able to take it. Just like this that happened when Mitch McConnell was leader of the Senate, and he sat on 400 plus bills. Remember that? Sat on 400 plus bills of Democrats. And the funny thing is, 3 of these were COVID related that he was sitting on. He was sitting on stuff that was COVID related from the Democrats. So the Republicans put in a proposal, put it on the Senate floor. What happens? Democrats filibuster it because they took out the stuff that the House voted in that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats wanted. They put in there and reconciled with the Senate. They took that out, tried to pass it. And Democrats filibustered it. Just one bill, not 400 plus. But you know, James, he has to put out an email. And he has to put out a Facebook post talking about how mean those Democrats are that they quashed our bill. Yeah, that's James Lankford crying like a pansy about Democrats playing by the exact same rules Republicans play by, and were playing by at the same time they filibustered this bill. Yeah, those 400 plus bills, they were still sitting on McConnell's desk when James was crying about the Democrats throwing a filibuster. And you know what? From what I understand, just recently, the Republicans threw another filibuster, and James gave another reason as to why we need to filibuster this. Yeah. So there's James Lankford in a real big nutshell. The guy's kind of a coward. And not really kind of, he really is a coward. And he's a traitor to the Republic. And you know this because he's scared. And you know he's scared because he can't seem to get out there enough. He can't seem to get in front of a TV camera, an interview, a podium, or anything else to try to save face from the treason he tried to commit on January 6th. And then the subsequent confession letter he gave out on the 7th about, yeah, you know, I actually tried to do this for my friends. Yeah, how we tried to, you know, forget the rule of law and the Constitution and keep Trump. Yeah, I tried to do that. He sure did. But you know, the violence was just a little too much for him. So in the end, he couldn't go through with it. Well, there you go, right? And so James is a good guy because he didn't go through with it. He was too chicken to go through with it, from what you hear on the right. And really on the left, he was too chicken to go through with it because, well, you know, he's just too chicken. And that's James Lankford. I mean, come on. You got to look at the guy. Look at him, man. I mean, is this really the face or the type of guy you would think of as being tough or brave? Come on, man. The guy's not going to stand up to anything. You've seen him. You know who he is. You can't do it. He's got so many people that are against him on his Facebook page, I don't even know why he keeps one around anymore. Not even conservatives like him. About half of them. So we'll see, you know. He's got this primary coming up with crazy guy Lamer, and we'll see what happens with that. I'm really interested to see how that race goes, because I'm almost positive it's going to turn into a major clown show, especially with the Lamer on it, the ticket, being as clowny and kooky as he can be. So that should be some interesting entertainment, especially for us here in Oklahoma and for this show, as we do more episodes coming up in the upcoming political season. Because right now, yeah, you know, it's summertime, You're kind of in a lull here in between election cycles, so there's not really a whole lot going on. But, we still have people like James Lankford out there who just can't seem to quit being partisan and blaming everybody else for being partisan. Hey man, why don't you just agree with me? Otherwise you're just being a partisan. And I don't have to agree with you, and that's not actually being partisan because, see, I'm a conservative and God's told us that we could rule. And that's exactly what James Lankford thinks. And this is exactly why we really need to get rid of him. I'm not saying we need to vote in Lamer, who is, maybe crazier than he is, but we really should get someone in there who's got some credibility left, who's not a traitor to the Republic, who's not a coward, and puts out a confessional the next day after he tried to do a soft coup in Congress using procedure. This is Across the Desk with Kit Fairchild. We'll see you next week.